People have always complained in society. However, with the birth of social media, especially with vehicles like TikTok, we have been seeing more and more complaining and less action. And today, I want to talk about how complaining is actually stunting our ability to achieve what we want to achieve and how it's holding us back from success. If you enjoy topics like this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can see our next episode on the truth behind the trends. Complaining naturally gives us a dopamine hit because we're expressing our vulnerabilities and our issues and our frustrations in society, which makes us feel like we're getting a solution when we're putting that energy out into the world. However, we do see with neuroscience that this does rewire our brain. And when we rewire our brain with neuroplasticity, we end up complaining more and adapt to that pattern. We're training our brain to focus on the problems rather than solutions. And over time, we're going to eventually start to feel even more negative. This is something that's going to hinder our ability to solve our problems because the focus is on the problem itself. And with TikTok, what we see a lot of people gaining notoriety, views, clicks, and money from complaining online. I've done this, so it's not like it's something that isn't common. It's something that's very natural, especially when you're looking for an audience that wants to resonate with what you're going through. It feels good. It gives you that sense of belonging, like people understand you. However, it's rewiring your brain to attract more issues rather than solving the problems and moving on in your life. When we do this, we start to waste energy on what we can't control. It keeps us in this victim mindset where we feel like we have no power because we have given so much power to the things that we complain about. And this temporary relief never leads us to actual real change. What it does is it puts the problem on a pedestal and it drains you from your energy and your life force to the point where you can't even imagine moving forward and solving your problem. The time that we spend complaining is time wasted because that time can be spent on solving the problem or evolving. That doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge that we have problems. Of course, we all have problems, but we don't complain about our problems over and over and over again. If this is something that you struggle with, it's okay to struggle with it. Journaling helps a ton. But what doesn't help is chronically complaining because it drains people all around you. If you're somebody that chronically complains, or maybe you've had a time period in your life where you're facing a lot of adversity and you're not capable of focusing on solutions at that time, you will go to the other people in your life and you've probably pushed people away because people who want to solve their problems are not capable of staying in dynamics where they're giving advice over and over and over again to somebody who's seeking that advice but unwilling to do the work to change their circumstances. Those people are going to recognize that as a virus that is going to infect their lives as well, because the more that we complain to others, the more they're going to want to reciprocate, because that's just what we do as humans. People will start to avoid you. Subconsciously, they're going to start building anxiety around you. And then you'll build this reputation of somebody who just keeps running into adversity with no way of getting out of it. It's one thing if you have a lot of adversity in your life, you know what, that's normal. That's not your fault. Adversity is normal. It's a neutral part of society. However, if you focus on how you have no power and you're constantly sitting in this place where you need other people to lift you up, eventually nobody is going to have the capacity to lift you up because you have drained them from their energy that they need to put into themselves as well. The more that we continue to complain, we're going to increase our stress levels. This activates our stress response. It actually activates our cortisol and our immune function starts to drop. So when you are somebody who has chronic stress and you have immune fatigue, you end up getting autoimmune disorders. I mean, this can all compound the more it goes on. And it's something that is pretty common in today's world. And I think it's increasing due to the way that TikTok functions. People start to feel heavier. I mean, even me, I can't even scroll on TikTok anymore. I mean, I was like the TikTok advocate. I love TikTok. TikTok was like this new innovative thing. And every time I go on there, I just feel drained because even if I'm seeing a lot of positivity on there, eventually I'm going to come across somebody who has a negative view. Eventually I'm going to come across somebody who's just complaining about the circumstances of society and not focusing on what we can control and what we can change, and that increases my stress. That gets me into a fight or flight response, and it infects me with this belief that I have no power or control over my life. And that is not something that is going to fuel me towards what I want to accomplish in life. The only thing that will help me minimize this is being grateful for, number one, what I already have, and having optimism about the future, even in times where things are bleak. And a lot of people will say, how can you be optimistic? That's toxic positivity. What? Do you know how many people have been in situations where they didn't think they were going to wake up the next day and their only thing they had was hope? Hope is the one thing that you cannot take away from somebody. That type of thinking is what creates a society where everyone is powerless to the people who have the power. Do you want to be somebody without power, or do you want to have power? Do you want to control the narrative of your life? Do you want to know that eventually your hard work will pay off no matter what, because eventually you'll learn, change, and grow and evolve? Or do you want to be living in this state that is chronically stressful, where you feel like there's nothing left to live for? Because that's what that narrative does. Gratitude and optimism creates true resilience, and complaining tears that down. Saying things are toxic positivity because somebody is focusing on the things that they do have tears people's resilience down. And just because other people are not as resilient doesn't mean it's okay for people to put that narrative onto those that are trying to overcome adversity. This shows that these people have a scarcity mindset. They don't believe in themselves. They think everything is very finite and that there's not enough opportunity for everybody else. But in reality, there's so many opportunities everywhere you look. For example, right now we're seeing the thing with the tariffs, and the market dropped, I don't know, what was it, like 5,000 points? I don't know, at a ridiculous amount. But today, Trump halted the tariffs, right? So he halted the tariffs. The market shot up 3,000 points, and people had the opportunity to buy the dip, but a lot of people were focused and not paying attention to the reactions around the world and the way people were talking about things, that they missed this opportunity. They thought that this was going to completely destroy the economy, and some were kind of wishing that it would. And I think it's to create this narrative that they're right in their brain about all the complaining that they're doing, rather than seeking the opportunity that's right in front of them. There's opportunities and abundance all around us. You just have to start looking through the lens that creates that opportunity for you. And if you're focused on everything that's wrong in society and everything that is bad with no objective reason, right? You're not using it as a tool to overcome, but you're just focused on becoming a victim to these circumstances, then you're going to stay stuck in a scarcity mindset, and you're not going to be able to get out of that mindset that is going to allow you to create success, joy, and have creative outlooks on the way that you can function in the world. And if you're in a scarcity mindset, what that does is it reinforces self-fulfilling prophecies. It all trickles down into one big machine of you creating the narrative in which your life will unfold. If you are always saying nothing ever works out for me, you're going to start behaving that way, because you're telling your body, you're telling your brain that things don't work for you. That's what you are telling your computer system in your mind, that is the reality in which you live in. It doesn't mean that you don't fail, that things haven't worked out, but things eventually will work out. Look at your entire life. There are definitely time periods in your life where things have worked out. You woke up this morning. I would say that's something that worked out for you because somebody else didn't wake up this morning. And when you're focused on looking through this lens, you talk yourself out of trying, you minimize your hope, you kill your resilience, and you sabotage your own personal piece of what power you have over yourself to overcome adversity. If you're constantly telling yourself that you're not somebody that can handle adversity, then when adversity hits, you're going to crumble. But adversity is a part of life, and you're more than capable to handle it, because every single day that you've had a bad day on this planet, you've survived because you're standing here right now. So instead of going down this narrative and falling into these trends where people are complaining and scrolling down the complaining narrative, we have to change what we're doing. And we have to notice when we are complaining, because you are going to complain, and that's okay. There's no shame in complaining. You just need to understand why it's hindering your ability to move forward. And then you need to start addressing the power that you have in changing the way that you're impacting your future. So when you notice yourself complaining, name the complaint. And ask yourself how you can change this narrative. You need to identify if this is a boundary that you need to set within yourself, if you have a need to express, because a need to express is not complaining. Those are two different things. A need to express, to work through the problem and to create a solution is a very normal way of handling your issues. That's what I do. I have to verbalize things to process them, but I don't sit and ruminate over and over and over again and talk about it in a way where I have no power. I express the issue, I find a solution. Or maybe you need to change your perspective. There's lots of ways that you can approach this, but what you have to do is you have to acknowledge the complaint and you have to reframe the way that you're looking at it, whether it's framing it as a way of looking at it through a different lens. So if you're complaining, things have been going really bad for me, everything goes bad for me all the time. If you say something like that, instead of saying that, say things have gone bad repetitively for me, but I can change this narrative because you have power. For every complaint that you have, you can state 3 different things that you are grateful for. When you start to change and rewire the way that you're thinking about your problems, then you're going to start to find the solutions in which you're looking for. And if you reframe with solution-oriented questions, like what do I have in my control? Eventually, the way that your brain is functioning will change the patterns that you're experiencing. Saw this fact where it's like the same neural pathway of negativity is the same neural pathway that is for gratitude. So when you are being grateful, you literally cannot think of a negative thought. And that's why when you complain, you use the pathway of being grateful to rewire that thought process, because you can't complain while you're thinking of things that make you grateful. So when I complain, because I experience this all the time, it's a human thing, right? When I'm complaining and I'm like, oh my God, my views, I'm not getting any views. Oh my gosh, I need to get money because I want to go buy SmartSweets. My way of changing it is by sitting down and being like, I'm so grateful I have a house over my head. I'm so grateful I have food in the fridge. I'm so grateful that I get to wake up every morning. Because while those seem very small to some people, those are monumental to a lot of people. And at one point, those were things that I didn't have. Those were things that I was scared I would never have. And so when I can reframe it and look at the life that I'm living and acknowledge the things that I have, those complaints seem pretty meaningless and like something that I can really overcome, because at the end of the day, finding a home to live in seems like a bigger issue than me complaining about not being able to buy SmartSweets, as good as they are. When we change the way we think and we rewire our thoughts, we can overcome the complaining narrative that we have placed on today's society. And another way that you really can do this is by setting those boundaries, making sure that you're not scrolling on social media apps that are perpetuating this narrative. This is something that I'm working on every single day, because I get stuck and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. I start to feel horrible. I start to have anxiety. I start to feel overwhelmed. And I realize it's because the content that I'm listening to is a bunch of people complaining about everything in their life with absolutely no solution. And the second you propose a solution to these people, they attack you. They attack you like you are creating their problems, rather than proposing the solution that can help them break free. And those people don't want solutions, and that's their prerogative. That's their pierogi. But in my opinion, those people impacting me is my problem. And what I have to do is I have to stop scrolling and set that boundary and go outside and touch some grass, because that will impact me just as much as hearing a friend reach out. When you have friends that are complaining, you can set that boundary with those friends. If they continue to come to you, if you're that friend that's like the go-to friend for people to complain to, I was that friend. You know why? I'm super empathetic. I totally get it. I struggle with so much every single day. I can totally relate to everybody that's struggling. But if I'm struggling with my own issues, and then I have to take on your issues, and I have to take on her issues and his issues and their issues, and you guys aren't doing anything to solve your problems, eventually I am going to feel like I have no power over my own life. And so I've had to set those boundaries with those friends and not allow them to come to me to complain. And that's something that we're all capable of doing, identifying who is impacting us, whether it's social media, friendships, or our own self-talk, and changing the way that we narrate these things or absorb these things in our daily life. And once you do that, you'll be able to move forward and find the solutions that you're looking for to solve your problems. Let me know if this helped you, if it highlighted the reasons why complaining is not helpful for you to move forward and solve your problems. And if you're interested in worksheets that can help you work through this process, follow me on Substack, join the Evolution Revolution, where I'll be coming out with new worksheets to help change behaviors. And if you like hearing about the truth behind the trends, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll see you guys next time.